Welcome to iPen Podcast, Interviews and Conversations. Here we bring entrepreneurs and their business to their audience and communities as well as ours. We welcome and connect with them to share who they are and what they do. Authors, entrepreneurs, we extend the invitation to promote your business here on our podcast and in iPen Magazine. Your article, your story, your promotions, how you can connect with others, a new audience, a quarterly magazine presented online for all to view and subscribe to. For articles, ads, and subscriptions, please contact ipendesigns@gmail.com. For your viewing, you can see past articles, past interviews on www.nanettembuchanan.com. Welcome to the show. Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Nanette Buchanan, and this is iPen Vision's podcast, interviews and conversations. And as normal, we have all kind of things to tell you tonight about a person who's doing it all in the community and where she lives and doing it well. So we want to bring you in, let you know what to do. As we said, we aim to be a part of inspiration. You can contact us as ipendesigns@gmail.com or at my website, www.nanettembuchanan.com, to be a part of our magazine, as you heard in the commercial prior, or to just get in touch with us because you want to be a part of the podcast. We look forward to it. And before I introduce tonight's guest, of course, I have to interview. Listen to me. I have to introduce. Well, she's going to come on and clean that up because I messed that up. My partner in crime, and I call her my partner in crime because she does just that. She helps me get this thing rolling, and sometimes we just have to clean up mistakes, and I'm so glad that she's a part of my system and a part of my life. Welcome, Felice. Hey, Felice, how are you, sugar?
I'm giving you a round of applause.
Thank you.
Because
how you doing?
Because you say you need me, and I love that.
Yes, I do. If no one else does, I do.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone, our esteemed audience. I am super excited because we're going to have a conversation. Well, I don't want to give it away, but I have a burning question to ask this conversationalist. And actually, that's my pen name or nickname is the conversationalist. But tonight we have a wonderful guest. I'm going to state my name because Nanette, I don't see our name and titles up. I'm Felice Reeves, the esteemed partner in crime to Miss Nanette Buchanan. And I'm also a celebrator of entrepreneurs. And I'm super excited not only for the things that we get to do, but the wonderful lady that we're about to meet. So without further ado, Nanette.
Yes. Without further ado, we want to welcome to the stage, to our audience, to the person that we are bringing to you. I'm stuttering here because I got all kind of things flashing at me that never flashed before. I swear every week, Felice, we get something different going on. I'm not understanding.
I done told you that I got to put the shovel in one hand and your award winning.
I'm like, wait a minute, what the heck is going on? But one thing we know for sure, we've got a beautiful guest. So I want to present to you our guest for the evening. She's a poet, something that I aspired early in my writing, poetry. And you know what? I'm going to tell everybody a secret. I did not like honor English class at all. I didn't like the poems, the sonnets, the learning how to do the verse, learning how to present it. I didn't like that stuff at all. But then when I started writing and knowing that you could get deep down and dirty without using deep down and dirty words and make people think and have them snapping their fingers at what's going on, I really, really, really learned to love poetry. And I learned how to love what I'm sure she's going to talk about, the variations of
Mm.
poetry. I thought, hickory dickory dock was the boringest thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Why would we want to know
Mm.
about Humpty Dumpty? And
Yeah.
why would we want to know about the but after I got into it, I enjoyed it immensely, and then it springboarded into what I do.
Mhm.
So we're going to find out what it springboarded for this woman of pen, Miss
Mm.
Charlene Green. Welcome to the stage, Miss Charlene. How
Yay!
are you? How are you?
I'm
Welcome,
well, thank you.
welcome, welcome to our platform. Welcome to our audience. We're trying to share this thing going on
All
and
right.
making sure that everybody has it, making sure that they can see and
Okay.
join us. I would love for you to tell us who is Charlene E. Green.
All the secrets.
Yeah, who are you?
I am an articulation artist. And
Mhm.
what that means is that
Mm.
I work with words in across many genres and in many, many ways. And if I may, in ways that a lot of people can't. So I am able to
Uh-oh.
help a lot more
Mhm.
people because of the many ways I work with words. So you mentioned that
Mm.
I'm a poet. I am also a novelist. I also write screenplays. I also write self-help. I ghostwrite. I copy edit. I content edit. I do all the phases of editing. I help people get their books ready for publishing. I am not the publisher on purpose. On purpose. I don't want that job, but I get everybody ready for that. And I have 10 of my own books.
Mm.
And I'm also a life coach. So my life coaching, Honor the Spirit, was born from my 3 self-help books. So this is what I mean. Like whatever I do is somehow wrapped into my work with words. So even if I'm doing my life coaching, it's still, I mean, obviously I'm using my words to help you, but I also brought that into the world from the books that I already wrote. So it's fun. It is thrilling. I love how many ways I'm able to help people and help myself because thank goodness I know how to do all of the editing and all of the publishing tasks because I know how much it costs to pay
Wow.
somebody else to do it because I've done it. So
Mm.
yeah, so that's just a brief who am I?
Yes, and like I showed them the sign. That's multifaceted talent.
Yes.
That's something that we
Mhm.
often look for in other people,
Mhm.
and they point to where you got to go.
Yeah.
They point to what you have to do. But I am so happy that you mentioned because I've had people say to me and come to me and ask me, well, how come such and such doesn't publish, or how come so and so doesn't edit, or how come you know what I mean? And the
Mhm.
thing that I want to emphasize tonight, if nothing else with you here, is you got to do your research.
Mm.
You got to research who you're working with, what they do, how well they perform. Don't just take their word on it. Please, 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 audience, because that's who I'm talking to.
Mm.
Yep.
Please, please, please do your research because you'll find that you have lost money down a drain where
Mm.
you can't regain it. You can't regain the time, you can't regain the effort. And a lot of times, people that are just beginning will lose the spirit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
So please, please, please listen to the people that we bring on board, especially people as versed as Miss Green. Please, please, please listen to the interviews. You can go back on YouTube and re-see them. You can go on her page and get her information. Please, because I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and said, I don't even know if I own my ISBN.
Mm.
I don't even know if the copyright. I don't even know, do I really need to go to this person for distribution? please, please listen to, what we bring to you as guests. We're not saying we're experts in what we do, but what we are saying is that we want to give you the opportunity to understand what's going on. Give you that opportunity. So these people that come aboard, just like Miss Green, are really talented, but they also know their business. They work their business. So in working your business and being all of those things, where did your journey start?
In my mama's belly.
Very good. Yeah.
So
now tell me, mama was reading to you in the belly.
She probably was, because my mother was a teacher. She was teaching before I was born. So I'm sure there was some, she was pregnant with me while she was teaching. And she was also a writer, which I didn't find out until much later. Actually, most of the writing that I found out about was after she passed away in 2020, and I was cleaning out her house. So I knew that she was a writer. I knew that she could write. I knew that she enjoyed writing, but I didn't know the extent to which she was writing and trying to write while I was growing up. So I always knew that I got my talent for words and my love of reading and all of that from her. I just didn't realize the depth of it until, about 5 years ago. So that just makes me even more proud of what I can do, because it was passed down to me. But actually, my grandmother was talented like that, which I found out later in life. So it's really in the genes. And that's one of the things that is fortunate for me, is that it's passed down. So it's not something I have necessarily had to study extensively. I have in my Liam Neeson, I have a certain set of skills. I really do. And I mean it. I'm saying it like that, but honestly, it's always been there. Now, where I did train though was the editing. So I'm kind of segueing into something else right quick, because I want to make sure I say this. Everybody is not supposed to be out here trying to edit. And so there are reasons why we say stop trying to edit your own work, because it is a huge job. It has many, many layers and facets. And if you can't, just because you know how to spell pretty well and you might be all right with punctuation, that does not qualify you to start editing people's books. And so one of the things that came with my journey once I moved to Los Angeles, because I'm from the Bay Area. So while I always wrote, I was writing as a child and all of that, I did not start this career journey until I moved to Los Angeles in 2003. So the two women that I had the pleasure of working for and with were Dr. Rosie Milligan and Dr. Maxine Thompson. And so I trained, I mean, sat with this, back before the internet was really popping, where I was at Maxine's house, rest her soul. So Maxine, she started off as a mentor, and then she became my literary agent. We'll get to that later. But for the first 2 years, I used to work for her. I used to be her overflow editor. So when she was working for Carl Weber, she was working for people who were writing for the big house publishers, the big publishing houses. And when she had too many projects, I would go and take over some of them. But as a new editor back in 2004, 5, 6, there were things I had to learn. And so I used to go to Maxine's house and sit with her, and she trained me on content editing. I knew how to do the copy editing. Of course, there were things I learned along the way, but the content editing, which is like a very, very specific type of editing, and everybody can't do that either. I just had a conversation about this with somebody the other day. Maxine trained me, And Dr. Rosie Milligan trained me. So I worked for them simultaneously for about 2 years. So I would be at Dr. Rosie's office on Manchester, and I interned for her for 2 years, where I did all the stuff, the editing and the, learning about how to put a book together correctly. And it was great because when I went to Dr. Rosie Milligan, I started off asking her if she would please read my manuscript for my first novel, One Man's Treasure, which she did, and she loved it. And then so she took me on as a client. So we started shopping my manuscript. That's how we started our relationship. But while we were shopping my book and getting rejected, we will talk about that, I wanted to learn more about the industry. And so I asked her, I would say, when are you going to let me start working for you? And she kept telling me no. And I was like, why? And she was like, no, it's okay. It's good. It's good. And so, but I never let up. Every time I would go over there, I'd be like, Rosie, when are you going to let me work for you? So finally she told me why she kept saying no. She said, it's not that I don't think you can, but I've had people ask me that before. I've brought people in who thought they wanted to do this work. And then I lost them because they weren't dedicated. They didn't understand the dedication that it takes. And so they would drop off. And she said she got tired of that. And that's why she was telling me no. But then I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And so she was like, all right, now I'm going to let you come in here and do a few things, but you see what I just told you, right? And so she brought me in and she started teaching me all of the ways that publishing works. And I stuck it out, and not just stuck it out, I enjoyed what I was doing. So that is how I got in the door. This was 2004. So that time with her, and then I met Maxine, and they were cohorts. They used to do events. And so Rosie introduced me to Maxine, and that's how I ended up interning for her while I was interning for Rosie at the same time. So it was like this very beautiful fortune for me to be able to intern for two Black women, two Black women in the industry, for them to take me under their wing and show me how this system works correctly. And correctly is the operative word, because there's so many people doing it incorrectly, which is why when you work with me, I do not let you do it incorrectly, or you can't work with me. I absolutely do not work with people who have indicated in any way that they are not going to do this right. Meaning, like, even if they're going to put up a fight about it, like, oh, no, then I'm not going to work.
Exactly. And not only that, the thing about it is, I think that the misconcept is the self-publishing industry. And I don't say it to be negative, because I'm self-published.
I am too.
But the self-published industry has created this image that you don't have to do it the way that the industry wants. It gives you this image that you can make the book be the way you want it because it's self-published. And I think they take that ideology to the hilt to cover mistakes, to cover, misleading formats, to cover, things that just should not be, or to say, well, everybody else is doing it this way, so I can do it this way. They don't look at that. Now, one of the questions that I think people get confused, other than the self-publishing versus the traditional publishing, and I'm not going to go into that because everybody goes into that one area. What I want to go into, or what I want is, as you said, there's editing. There's editing for grammar. There's editing for punctuation. There's editing for content. There's editing for verbiage understanding. I don't know what the correct terminology is for that, but you got to be able to understand the verbiage. And we all know that because we look at it and say, well, characters don't always talk that way.
Right.
You know, so you have to have that verbiage understanding where your character is from, what, you know, what is the environment that they're in. So could you explain a little bit more to the audience? Because I don't want them to have my interpretation because it's not the correct wording. But the thing is, I understand it because it's been explained to me.
Right.
Content editing. Now, there used to be a time where when you would go hire an editor, you had to go through different channels. You had to take it through this channel for the grammar, this channel for this channel for that. And it would be, okay, you're paying this person $500, you're paying that person $500, you're paying this person $500. And by the time you got to content, you were like, the heck with it. Because I've spent so much money on all the other things that the content is mine. So the way I wrote
see how I said,
yeah, right.
That's exactly what people were doing.
Right.
You know, so can you explain not only what it is, but the necessity of content editing?
All right. So this is a small plug, which will happen again later, but I just released my new online publishing course, Ready for the World Publishing Prep. And in the course, there is an entire video on this subject. It comes up more than once, but so here's the thing. Content editing is actually the first step. So when people say, oh, I need my book edited, they think what they're saying is, I need my book edited for the grammar and punctuation and all of that, right? But I already know when they come to me and they say, hey, I need my book edited, because I've been doing it for so long, I can already tell they haven't done the content editing. They are just asking about the technical part. So in reality, content editing is the first step, and it can be done in different ways. Now, one of the ways I always recommend, which is what I talk about in the online course, is when you use your beta readers. Okay. Because if you do this part right, you do not necessarily, where the parentheses at? You do not necessarily need to hire a content editor. That depends on whether or not you do the beta reader process correctly, because I tell you in the videos what you're supposed to look for in your beta readers so that you can get the content editing right. So when you have finished your first draft, okay, the end, boom, I just wrote the whole book, woohoo, it's not ready for publishing. Here's the problem. This is what people do. The end. Hot damn. Let's go to Amazon. That's exactly what they do. They might be like, ooh, let me call a proofreader, right? That's still wrong. It's still wrong, because the first thing, if you want to really break it down, the first thing you're supposed to do, when I say supposed to, let me put it in quotes, because you can do whatever you want. But if you're gonna do this right, and if you are dedicated to the process, and if you care about the content you're about to give your readers, then this is what you're supposed to do. After you finish the first draft, get it all out, it's all in one place, you need to step away from it. You need to not look at it for like 2 weeks. I say 2 weeks to a month. And that may sound like a lot, but you already just spent however long getting the content out. That's right? That's right. So like, let's say you've been working on this book for 3 years, right? You got it in, some of it is in your phone, some of it's on your computer, some of it is in a freaking notepad, some of it's written on napkins. You got the book in about 6 different places. Now you've typed it all up. Now it's in the Word document, not Google Docs,
right?
Not Google Docs.
No Google Docs. No.
No.
It's no bueno.
It's typed up in Microsoft Word.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see the whole story from all the different places you had it, unless you just always had it in one place.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's done. The first draft.
Mm-hmm.
I call the first draft the dump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you literally just dumped all of this story from your brain onto the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not ready to go anywhere important yet. First of all, now you've been so consumed with it for however long you've been working on it, you need to walk away.
Yeah.
You need to not look at it, let it breathe, let yourself breathe. You need to marinate on what you did. Like you just wrote a book.
Yeah.
Like you just had a baby. You know what I'm saying? And like you need a moment to be like, I did that. Like I just did that. But you also need to not look at it because you are going to need to prepare yourself to go back in and do rewrites. And this is the other thing that people don't want to talk about. Rewrites. What you talking about? I wrote the book already. Here it is. Baby. You dumped the content into the Word document and it may look halfway decent. I'm not saying, when I say dump, I don't mean it looks like trash, although we're gonna leave that blank right there. Although, but even in the online course, I say your first draft might actually look okay. Which you still can get, a little bit excited about. However, it's still not ready for the world. Okay.
Right.
Because it's not your best work. Even though you may think it is, just because you got it all out of you, it's only the first time you've seen all the words outside of your body. You understand what I'm saying? And so you go away, you lock it up, you shut it down, you don't look at it, you go have some fun, you go brag to people about how you just finished your first book, the first draft. And then you celebrate. You come back 2 weeks to a month later, and then you listen to me, people. You, by yourself,
read it.
You read your own book from start to finish. You're still not letting people see it yet. And now, if I could put a pin right there, I've noticed, like here in 2024, there's a lot of dump and then send it out to people to look at it. And I'm saying, as someone who's been doing this since 2004, don't do that.
Don't do it.
Because you haven't done any work on it. It's like if you sent your baby out half dressed. Like it's not ready. The baby's not presentable yet. So you come back from your break and then you read your story from start to whatever you've done. Don't matter what kind of book it is. You read it from start to finish. Because then you can get some perspective. Then you can be like, what the hell?
Yeah, right.
Like really, you'd be like having conversations with yourself about like, what is this on page 73? Like what the, I didn't think I put that part in there. I thought I took that out. Like there's all kinds of things that happen when you read your first draft after the break. Okay. And so once you have read your entire book from start to finish, and so here's the other thing, just read it. You can take some notes. Like I get it. So you might see some things like whatever, like what in the hell, whatever, but take some notes, but don't stop to fix stuff yet. We're not there. This is part of the process. You need to see what you did all the way through. I say take some notes. Like if you want to remember to go back to page 73 or whatever, okay, go back to this page and let's fix this or whatever. But keep reading all the way to the end, and then you're able to say, okay, woo, now What do I need to go back in here and
change or fix? That's
Right.
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 You still have not shown the book to anybody.
Right.
See, by now, people who don't know what they're doing have already like either put it on Amazon or they've given it to about 20 people because they're so excited that they wrote the book, and there hasn't been any work done on the content. So we're back at the question of what is content editing, and this is how it gets started. You got to take a break first, then come back and read your thing all the way through. Then you by yourself go back in and start tightening up those areas. Now, here's another caveat. You're only going to be able to do your own content editing because you have your content editing, and then you have when you do the beta readers, but we'll get to that in a minute. So in your own personal content editing, you're only going to be able to do it effectively if you care about the reader's experience. Because if you're publishing that book for you, you're not even going to want to do content editing. First of all, if you're just going to go to Amazon after the dump, that's when you don't care about us, right? You only care about you and the fact that you wrote a book, and you want to be able to say, I wrote a book. Look, everybody, this is what I did. But if you care about the reader and you care about the story you're telling and the message you're sending, you're going to care about the content editing. So that means when you're in your own personal time of doing it, you're going to be careful. You're going to be like, now, can I say this better? Does this part need to be in here? You're going to examine it. You're going to do some picking apart. This is your personal time. After you've done all that, okay, then I want to be careful here because depending on how much work the story needs will determine how many drafts you do. But let's just pretend after you did your dump, you took your break and you came back and you did your own content editing. You're like, yeah, this thing is hitting. I need some people to see it. Okay, cool. Because at least you did some work on it before you gave it out. Now you go into your beta readers. Here's where the other part of content editing comes in. Your beta readers are not everybody. They are not random people. They are very specific people. Because if you don't choose the right beta readers, you're not going to get the right content editing advice. So if you wrote a fiction novel, okay, let's just say it was urban fiction. So let's take my book, One Man's Treasure. It's Black people all up and through the book, right? And it's Black people talking how Black people talk, and you cannot give that type of book
to someone that does not understand. That's right.
Exactly. So if you have that kind of book, you cannot, first of all, across the board, no matter what kind of book you wrote, you cannot choose people who do not read. First thing on the list is you cannot choose people who don't like to read or who don't spend enough time reading. And you have to choose somebody that knows fiction. Then you got to choose somebody that knows urban fiction. Okay? So there's that right there. That's just the one quality of the person who likes to read, right? They gotta like to read. They gotta have time for that. They gotta make time. They gotta know fiction. Then they have to know that type of fiction. If they don't know those things, you cannot give your book to them to critique. Okay. Then the other thing is they can love you, but they can't be yes people. You can't give your book to people who are going to be like, I'm so excited for you.
Mhm.
I can't wait. Let me get into it, because if you give it to yes people who are so like enamored with the fact that you wrote a book.
Yeah.
Girl, I can't believe it. Girl, they might not be paying attention.
Yeah, they're not doing you a service, right?
No,
you need the beta readers to be critical eye people.
Mhm.
You need them to get in there and be like, something here don't make sense.
Right.
You need them paying attention to the story, not the fact that you wrote a book. Okay.
Yeah.
And not the fact that it's you. You
Right,
know,
exactly.
so that can't be your favorite cousin.
No, well, it could
If
the favorite cousin,
if they know what they're doing, right?
If they know what they're doing. But the thing about it is,
Right.
if it's your favorite cousin and your cousin is just, hey, whatever you do is gold.
Right.
You know, you don't want that type of read. And then not only that, the other thing that I think gets confusing for new writers is that they automatically assume that it's a personal vendetta when someone is trying to correct whatever it is that they see.
Right.
You know, that they look at it and think about it and say, well, wait a minute, this is not what I wanted. Yeah, but you're not the reader. If the reader couldn't feel that from what you said, then your words and your interpretation or your way of describing it is not the correct way, even if it's fiction.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we can't make it so unbelievable that nobody, like, okay, this should be sci-fi. This is not fiction here, because you're going into a whole different element because people don't do this. You know what I mean?
So there is another piece of the online course where I'm talking about that, where you have to do your research. I know we're getting off into a different thing, but like you have to do your research on, let's say you're writing sci-fi or some type of like Harry Potter type of book. Whatever type of book you're writing, all of them actually, you need to know the genre. So if you're going to write sci-fi, when's the last time you read a sci-fi book? Have you ever? So you need to be reading in the genre that you plan to write in. That's another big mistake people make. They're watching movies, they're watching TV, and they're seeing the stories on screen, and they're like, ooh, I'm gonna write that in a book. But the only thing is, you can't, I want to be careful using the word can't.
You can, but in order, and not only that, putting it bluntly. If you go in a store and you go to pick up a blouse and you're looking at the blouse, most people will say it's pretty color. It's my size. I like the material, but the button line is off.
Right.
Well, even though it's a nice shirt, would you buy the shirt?
Right.
You know what I mean? So the problem with a book is we buy the book without knowing whether or not the buttons are lined up. We buy the book and don't know. So now when it's time for that author to get that review, they're looking for the kudos because they spent a year trying to get it together, because they spent money on an editor. They spent money on a cover. They spent money to get it distributed. They bought copies of their book. And now here you come with your one review that's 2 paragraphs long about what's wrong with the book. And the sales go bland. But you have to understand that you're not that one blouse on the hanger. Right? You're doing a whole production line. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. And you got to do that production. I can't listen, Charlene, I can't tell you how many times within the last 2 months I've had to tell people, recheck what you're doing. Take your time. It's not an overnight process. This quickie book thing,
I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's not, and not only that, you can produce it real quick, but it's still going to sell slow. So why not take your time and do it right?
Because what people Well, again, the people who don't care about the reader only care about being able to say, I'm a published author.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that like that upsets people, but I don't really care because it's the truth. And I'm going, if anybody who has ever worked with me already, they know I'm going to always tell them the truth, even if we got to have a little verbal tussle. I don't care because again, if you hired me to do the job, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to lead you wrong. And if you don't let me do my job, then the next thing I'm going to say, because I've said it, and she might be watching, because we talked about this. If you don't let me do my job, the next thing I'm going to say is, don't tell anybody I touched your book. Right. I don't care how much how much work I did on it.
Yeah.
Don't matter how much you paid me. If you get in the process with me and it starts looking like you're not going to let me do my job, because I'm going to do my job. I'm going to make you look beautiful. I'm going to make your project pop. I'm going to make you look good. I'm going to set you up to get the 5 stars. Right. But if you get in here with me and start wanting to like let your ego take over, then I'm going to say to you,
got to step out.
Good luck.
And
don't put my name
on
Don't mention.
That's
keep
right.
my name out your mouth. I'm
it.
so serious because
And
what you're not going to do is mess up my reputation.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, the thing about it too that we have to understand, mistakes may happen. You know,
they will.
Things may happen. We all know that, and there's room for error. But what there's not room for is you to say, this is what I know happens. And then when I say to you, well, let's look at some examples. Let's look at some pages that are set up this way. Let's look at some covers that look this way. Let's look at, you know, where you are as opposed to them. Let's look at that. And when you look at it, you say to me, well, I thought I was doing this for me. No, you're not.
See, that's the problem.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're writing for your audience. You want the audience to embrace your writing. They can't embrace your writing if you're too busy holding on to it.
Right.
Well, then you have to ask the question, look, are you going to buy all the books or are you expecting
somebody else to buy the book?
Right.
Let's make up our minds.
And you know what? It's funny you say that, Felice, because I could remember telling some people, you know, listen, your first 100 books, don't even count them. Because your first 100 books are family, friends, co-workers, those that are curious.
So true.
Those that may like the title, those that may like how the cover looks.
Right.
So you got 7 categories at least that in your first 100 books, they on you.
They are.
They want your book. Get to book 2 and tell me how you only sold 50.
Come on.
Get to book 3 and tell me how you only sold 25.
Come on. Well,
your number is dwindling because there was already a problem with book 1. There was already an issue. Now, if you got particular, you know, genres that you write, that's different because everybody is going to love your first book, but they might not like sci-fi. So they may drop off. They wanted to see your first book. They promoted you and did whatever. But that first 100, don't count that first 100. Now, when you start dropping off and you don't understand why, look at what you're doing differently. Look at maybe how your life has changed. Maybe some things have happened and you haven't been in touch. Maybe your disconnect is your marketing. Maybe your disconnect is something else. But when you talk about just your writing, you should have people calling you, asking you, when is your next
Where's the next book? So
you should have that.
My mom trying to tell me what you want. My mama want to say hi. I could. Okay. So when I wrote One Man's Treasure, I only meant to write that one book in the fiction realm. That is. That's the only book I thought I had on deck for the fiction. And then when I published it with Dr. Rosie with Milligan Books. So I know we're about to segue again. We were shopping the book and it kept getting rejected by mainstream. I was trying to get a book deal, a real mainstream book deal. And we kept getting the rejection letters, and they always sounded the same. It's just not what we're looking for, the kind of blanket, right? And so I asked her, I was like, what's the problem? Because you and I both know this is an excellent book. And she said, what you need to understand about the mainstream industry is that they're looking for what's hot right now. Right now. They're looking for what's selling the most right now. So if a mainstream publisher, if they're going to pick you up, it's because you have written something that's hot right now and you did it well. And they are pretty sure or almost positive it's going to make them a bunch of money.
Right. That's right. That's all they're looking for.
If you can write the most excellent book, but if it's not what's hot right now, it's going to be what they said in the letter. It's just not what we're looking for. And they were telling the truth, but they just don't tell you what they mean by that. Right. So she explained that to me, because it wasn't that my feelings were hurt, because sorry, but I knew I had done the damn thing. I did. But I was like, so what's the problem, right? And she said, this is what it is. There's a lot of politics involved in this industry. And she said, it'll happen. Just carry on with your life. It's going to happen, but maybe not right now. So what was hot at the time was street fiction. And so if you don't know not you guys, but if you don't, audience, if you don't know what street fiction is, it's like, pimps and hoes and drugs and I'm gonna sleep with your man, I'm gonna take your man, and F you this and F you know, all of that, right? Street fiction, which is very exciting and can be very entertaining if that's your thing, right? But that's what was hot back in 2003, 4, 5. That's what was hot. It was flying off the shelves, right? So here I come with my urban. I really hate calling one urban romance. That's right. Romance. I don't like calling it romance because that's not what I meant for it to be. But because that's kind of like the category it gets put in, I'm just going to say urban romance, right? Here I come with my book about this couple and this situation, right? And they weren't trying to see me. They weren't checking for me. And that's why. Because everywhere you looked, it was street fiction. And so I was like, well, ain't this a bitch?
Right.
So now I'm on the back burner because I'm not writing
what they're looking for. That's right.
So 4.5 years went by. And I want to talk about this for a minute because I need people to understand that do not get discouraged.
Exactly.
When the rejection letter, if you're pursuing a mainstream book deal, don't get discouraged. Like I was discouraged because I was like, damn, how much longer is it going to be? But like, you have to understand that you can have an excellent product, but if they not checking for you because they checking for somebody else, you just got to wait in line. You got to wait until the line changes to something else, right? So 4.5 years went by, rejection after rejection after rejection. And finally I was like, look, Rosie, this is ridiculous. I need to publish my book. And so she was like, you'll figure it out. So I ended up publishing with Milligan Books, but I had started my own editing business. So it was like I worked for her from 2004 to 2006. And then I started my own editing business because I learned all that I learned, and I was like, okay, I think I'm ready now. And so I got this business credit card when I started my business, and it had a $9,000 credit line. And that's what I used to publish One Man's Treasure through Milligan Books, which is called independent publishing. You can call it self-publishing, but it's not quite. That's not exactly what it is. That's the middle. That's the median. So you've got the traditional, then you've got the vanity press. That's what it's called, vanity press for independent publishing, and then you have true self-publishing. And I talk about all of that in the online course. So I published independently with Milligan Books in 2007. And it was a great experience. I made some mistakes. I talk about that in the online course. I'm very candid about the mistakes I made in publishing my first novel, because I need people to understand how complicated this thing can get if you don't do things correctly. And that's why I function the way I do now, because I don't want you guys making the same mistakes I make, because it doesn't have to happen. So I did the book. It was a great experience. It went very well. Maxine Thompson, who, again, she was writing and doing work for, New York. One day she called me up 8 months into the publishing of my book, and she was like, "Did you get a book deal yet?" And I was like, "Girl, you need to quit playing with me. If I had got a book deal, I would have called you by now, right?" So she was like, "I think I have something for you." She said, "Carl Weber is putting out a line of women's fiction through Urban Soul." So it was this new line just of women's fiction. And she said, "I think One Man's Treasure will be perfect." And I said, "Say less." She was like, can you get me the manuscript? I said, "What are you talking about? That thing been ready. But that thing been ready for whoever is ready to check for me, right?" So I gave it to her. She sent it off. That was I want to say December. It was December of 2007 when she called me. And in January, she called me back and said, "Kensington Publishing wants to offer you a 2-book deal." Now, mind you, I told you when I first wrote the book, it was only supposed to be 1. But what you mentioned earlier about people saying, "Where's the next book?" That's what happened when I put out One Man's Treasure with Milligan Books. Not only were they saying, "Where's the next book?" but so they were like, "Where's the sequel?" And I'm like, and I was honestly like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, did you read?
I did not write a sequel.
Right. I'm like, did you read the whole book? Because I don't understand why
the story is over. The story is over.
That's exactly what I said. And I was flattered. Like, I was flattered that they were like, "Where's the sequel?" But I was also confused because I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Did you not see?
And not only that, when you do that, you say that, and it's so funny that you say that, because my first book, I wrote it like I was Stephen King. I wrote 700 and some odd pages. And yeah, I did, because I was trying to cover every facet of the story that was brought to me. It wasn't a story that I thought of. It was something that was brought to me. And I wanted to cover every facet that the people were asking. And I just kept writing and writing and writing to show the facet. And when I got done, I was like, I am not Stephen King. What is this? So I got to split this up some kind of way. So I split it up with it leading into book 2.
Yes.
And I started book 2 with like the last chapters of book 1, figuring I'm done. Because I got all the facets, every question, every corner, every possible mystery, suspense, everything is covered. Got to the end of the book, and I want to say maybe 2 or 3 books in between. And then I started getting this big group of people, that very group that I said, if you got a group that's beginning to follow you, that very group, maybe about 50 people, but a good group that was saying, "Hey, what happened to so and so?" And I was like, that
Yes.
story is
Over, right?
And they were like, no, because she could have did this, he could have said that, and dumb me, I pick up the pen again, go and write up a couple of notes of what they said, go to the keyboard, type in a couple of things, and get right to the end of that one. And like you said, rereading it, going along. And my husband says to me, after because he listens aloud, which is great.
Yes.
Reading aloud, talking to him, each chapter, making sure it's solid. He gets to the end and he goes, so what you gonna do now?
Oh no! Yeah, it's hard.
So I
it's
said,
really
oh my God, you're right. I can't end it this way. Finale is coming out January. I hope that this is it.
Okay,
because
so
of the simple fact that when you're doing those series and when you're doing those kind of things, you really, as the writer, you can close your notebook. You can close your mind, your laptop, your pen, put it down, go to something else. But when you start getting people that are hungry,
yes,
for that story, you gotta give them what they're hungry for. Because the thing is, you've captured them.
You did your job, and so
you did what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
So you
gotta
go
people
back
asking for more. It's just I wasn't.
You weren't ready.
I wasn't
expecting it.
So in 2007, when they started saying not they weren't asking if there was going to be a sequel. They were asking when.
Like you were already doing it.
Like right. And I'm like, there isn't one. Ain't no sequel. What you talking about? So after that happened so many times, I started feeling like, am I missing something? Because
I don't see it.
I ended the book the way I ended it because the story was over. And now people are like, nah, where's the rest of the story? So at my book signing for One Man's Treasure, there was a woman named Angela Brown. She came to the book signing and she bought the book and she was like, I am an avid reader. She was like, I'm a get with you after I'm done. I was like, cool, right? So she calls me up 2 weeks later. The first thing out of her mouth was, okay, so let's talk about the sequel. And I said, Angela, look, I said, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And here's how it happened. She was the only person out of everybody that said, give us a sequel. She was the only one to be able to tell me why there should be one.
Should be a sequel.
So I said, so we were on the phone for like 2.5 hours because I said, I don't understand. Let me know something. So she said what she said. And I was like, oh.
That's a whole different twist.
Right.
Wait a minute. I was like, well, hold on now. We got in that conversation. And by the time we were off the phone, I was like,
yes, I could see it.
To be
yes.
On.
Yeah, I could see it.
I ended, so mind you, this is 2000. This is before the book deal came. I was still in the celebration of, I put the book out. I started writing the sequel, which is not One Man's Treasure Part 2. The sequel is called And They'll Come Home. I wrote it. I got 4 chapters from the end. Because I was going to do the same thing I did with One Man's Treasure, because I wasn't looking for mainstream anymore. Not anymore, but I got off of that.
Yeah.
Because I did my own thing, right? I was like, I guess I don't need mainstream. It'd still be nice. I still want it, but like, look what I did here.
Yeah. Right.
So I got 4 chapters from the end of And They'll Come Home. And that's when Maxine called me in December of 2007 and told me that I was offered a 2-book deal. And I said, 2? I said, ooh, look at here.
But see, now look how things played out. Right, because the second book is already in play.
Yes,
it's played out.
So
and that just shows the audience. I want the audience to take note to, you don't know where your writing journey is going to go.
Yeah,
right?
You don't have a clear vision. You like to write. You like to do what you do. You like what you're in. but you're not really the one steering the boat.
I thought I was till they were like, give us more. And I'm
right.
like, well, I'm feeling accosted right now.
A lot of people will tell you, well, no, I'm not in a boat. I'm in a race car. But if you speed too fast,
right,
you're going to lose some things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a boat and you're easy riding and you're taking your time, you just need to know what passageway you're going.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know that the boat is turning. You don't know that, well, we're going to dock a minute and let it sit a minute. And then we're going to get back out in the water. That's the way I see my journey. It's like a good float, like I'm floating through. I don't want to rush through. I don't want to hurry through. And I want to make sure that the waters that I'm on, the editing, the content, all of the things that make it a smooth ride are keeping me going.
Right.
But your latest project is
I'm laughing because
I love that laugh though.
The latest project is not a book. Actually, that's not totally true. I did just decide in the last couple of weeks that my next poetry book is going to be called Check My Documents. And I was wondering when the next poetry book was coming.
There that's entirely different than where I was going.
So, no, I know. So no, but there the project that I just put out is the writing to publish penning. Look, I'm looking at writing to publish right here on the screen. My most recent project is Ready for the World Publishing Prep. But you have on the screen writing to publish. And so what happened is last November, I did a masterclass on Zoom called Writing to Publish, penning a 5-star project. And it was strictly focused on key points for making sure that you give the reader the experience they need to give you 5-star reviews.
Right.
So I did that on Zoom. I saved the audio and I it's for sale. And so in there, I have an interview with one of my clients who we are talking about the fact that when she came to me, her book was not in any type of 5-star review shape. And we've talked about this. I'm not talking badly about her.
Yeah.
She could be watching right now. We've interviewed before and we've talked about it. But I took her from what is this to where she is now, where her book, it's a middle grade school book, but it's so well done that it appeals to adults.
Oh, okay.
So she didn't plan to do that. It really was supposed to be for the middle schoolers. But because of what the book is about, the book is called Peach and Plum. The author is Morgan Johnson, or M. Johnson is what she's probably on Amazon as. But it's for middle schoolers, but because of the nostalgia and all the fun stuff that takes the adults back into their grade school days, adults love the book too. So again, what we did in getting her book ready for the world was get her set up so that the kids would give her the 5 stars. But what happened is adults started reading it and they started giving her 5 stars along with the kids. And so I was like, Morgan, look what you did, because you did the work. Because you did the work. And I'm telling you, it was difficult. We spent like a year getting her book together.
Oh, wow.
But it was so worth it, because now she's getting 5-star reviews from 2 different generations.
Right.
Awesome.
Something she did not plan.
That's a crossover.
And so the Writing to Publish penning a 5-star project is it's a 1-hour audio, and I recommend it highly. It will get you set up for your writing process. It gives you a lot to think about. Should you even be writing the book? Because maybe you shouldn't right now, because maybe you're not in the right headspace. Maybe you don't care enough about your readers. Maybe there are some things you need to consider before you decide to write this book. And then the online course, which is Ready for the World Publishing Prep, is an entirely different experience. And it is based on the video series I did on Instagram last June. I did a 30-day video series where I popped in and I put a reel up every day for 30 days in June about different aspects of the writing and publishing process. And then I just let them sit there. I ran them back this June, just to replay. But I was like, I need to do something with these videos. I need to get them off of there and get them into some type of course. So I ended up doing that, and I launched it this month. And it's not just the videos. There's a whole other realm of bonus content where I'm talking about all these things that we're talking about, making sure you do the beta readers right. And so that, because if you do certain aspects right beforehand, you can save money on having to pay all these extra people. Because yes, if you don't have somebody like me who's like a one-stop shop, because I am, I'm just not going to publish your book, but I know who can. You know what I'm saying? So like, I got the plugs, right?
And not only that, the thing that I try to explain to people too is it's a learning process.
Right.
You're supposed to be learning along the way.
Right.
You're supposed to be learning. Buying, one of the things that I found that was good for me, even though I had, a pretty good English background, my writing skills are pretty good and everything else, we never can be 100%. So you want to make sure that you learn as you go.
Right.
I bought into, editing programs, and then I found out I needed an editing program that told me why. Give me something that's going to give me, because you just telling me I need a comma here or a semicolon there, or don't do this or don't do that. It wasn't helping me because I couldn't understand why. So I didn't make it a habit to keep it in my mind to do it over and over again. But once I got a program that would tell me in long phrase, you don't do this because this, and this. Now it's beginning to go in. So even if I'm sending it to an editor, I'm not paying for the small things. I'm paying for the larger things.
Yes.
Because I've already corrected the smaller things.
I talk about that in the course.
I've learned how to fix it.
You got to clean up first.
Certain things.
And that is your job as the writer.
The other thing that I need you to explain to some of the audience, and I'm not picking names, I'm just putting it out there.
We're not throwing nobody under the bus today.
There's some people that just don't believe me because I'm not. I don't say
they don't believe me either.
So when I say it, they look at me and go, "Huh?" But I had someone, and it's not just one person. I've had it happen now 3 or 4 times. That someone said to me, well, I'll just send it to the editor and the editor fixes it. That's not true. The editor gives you why, options, and everything else. And you as the writer still choose. That's what Charlene is saying about the fact that if you don't want to work with me and I'm telling you what's going to be best for you. Because if you pick option C, and I'm telling you option A is the better option. When we get further in the book and Johnny is not connecting, now we got more problems. So if you don't want to change what's supposed to be changed in the beginning, names, people get names confused. People get definitions of where they are.
It's because they don't know their story.
They get problems. So when the editor has picked up on it, that you said they were in the office, but now you got them in their car.
Right.
And they're trying to figure out when did they go to the car?
Right.
How did they get to the car?
And they get mad at you for finding that stuff. They get mad.
Well,
like you caused the problem. Like you wrote it. You wrote it wrong. What you mad at me for?
Is the flash after the commercial on the TV. Like when they go off, they're in the office, but when they come back on after the commercial, they're driving in the car, and they think that the story is supposed to flow like that commercial break. And it doesn't happen.
No.
So one of the things that I enjoy about having a conversation with you is the fact that here we have somebody that does it I don't do it, but I'm telling you that this is what you need to do.
Mhm.
I'm not telling you that I'm going to edit. I'm not telling you that, but I can read it and tell you.
Yes.
After me doing my books and after
Mhm.
me reading content after content after content, there is no writing that skips a whole part and you don't understand where it's going.
Exactly.
Right.
You
Exactly.
it's gotta flow. And you
Mhm.
gotta, the editor is gonna help you create that flow. So
One of the
please listen
things
to please listen to him. Please.
you're saying something very important, and I want to make sure that people hear this. When you're telling, you can't watch TV like you write a book.
Exactly.
You cannot watch a movie at the theater like you write a book. That is the
Exactly.
flow. Like you said, the flow is not the same. And so what happens is people write these stories the way that they saw it, the way that they watch TV,
Mhm.
where stuff is skipped, details are skipped. And when you say something like, okay, on page 22, she did da 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 da, and then on page 44, she's doing this over here, they're like, uh-huh. And I'm like, where
How did she get over there?
right? How did she get from this to this? And they forget that they have the story up here, but we
Yes.
don't know anything
Right.
about it. So, like,
Mhm.
part of the thing I have to train people to do is tell the whole story.
Yes.
You have to give us all the details. This is not a TV
Mhm.
show. We're not
Mhm.
cut to the next scene.
And well, not
Right.
only that, the thing that they don't understand is most of my books range anywhere between 350 to 400 and some odd pages. I'm writing novels.
Right.
I'm not writing short stories. I don't even know how to write a short story.
Mm.
But the thing about it is I'm not writing paragraphs. I'm not putting just paragraphs together and connecting them at some point. I'm writing a
Right.
full book.
Mhm.
Well, if I get scripted for that book, those 400 and some odd pages reduced down to 60 minutes worth of
Wow.
presentation.
It's hard.
And if it's on television, now you have to take out how many sponsorship commercials come out of that 60 minutes. So now it's even shorter to
Mhm.
what I have to write. Every page is a minute.
Mhm.
Mm.
So therefore, if you're doing a 2-hour movie, you're
Mhm.
only talking about 120 minutes, 120 pages. I have to shrink this 400 and some odd page
Wow.
book
Yep.
down to 120 pages. Well, if
Mm.
I'm shrinking it down to 120 pages, I can't stand there and tell you how she got dressed.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
I can't tell you how she looked in the mirror and saw how her makeup was flowing and all of that. Those little things come out because those are things that you visually see.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's what we try to tell people. Correct me if I'm wrong, Charlene.
No, you're right. You're right.
That's what we try to tell people when we say draw a picture.
Mm.
Because in the book, you want them to see just like they would see on the television.
Mhm.
But there is no way they're going to put 400 and some odd pages on the television.
So
They're just not going to do that.
So before I wrote One Man's Treasure, I wrote my first movie script.
Mm.
That came before all the things. And the movie script was called Love's Train. It was the screenplay was 154 pages or something like that. Now I knew that was too many pages. Just trust me, I knew, but I was in the zone. So it came out to be what it came out to be. So before I moved here, I was living in Oakland at the time. I started sending out to different companies to get feedback. And they all said the same thing. They were like, we love it, but it's too long. You're going to need to cut it. And I already knew that, but I was like, let me just see what they say at this length. Right.
Mhm.
So I went back and cut it a little. Right. And then I moved here and I shopped it some more. And there was a company that wanted to do the movie. But first she was like, listen, it's too long. You need to get it down to under 120 pages. And I was like, under? I thought it was. And she was like, I know, but things are changing. Now, mind you, this is back in 2006, right? She was like, you need to get it under 120 pages. And it was still 147 pages, something like that.
Wow.
So I was like, damn, now I'm gonna have to go restructure. And so I did the work. I did. And I got it down to 119 pages.
Wow. Look at you.
Yeah, but that was my first real experience with content,
having
editing.
to do content.
Yes.
Because you have to, and not only that, when you drop the pages,
Mm-hmm.
you can't drop the story.
Right, exactly.
So you got to make sure it remains, and that's why I'm trying, and I'm emphasizing this. And we are well past our time, audience.
Oh my God,
glad you're still hanging on. But the thing about it is, I think the importance of what you do for writers is so important. I mean, I'm like the lead way to you and a lot of our guests that have been on, Jessica Tillis and you know, Stephen Van Patten and all of those that do the creating and pulling other people in. I'm like the lead way. Hey, y'all need to go see them. Y'all need to go talk to them, because I don't have all of the tools to teach it. I know it's necessary. It's just like, you know, getting spaghetti and telling somebody you may need a napkin. You may need some Parmesan cheese. You may need a fork. Some people have to use a spoon and a fork. You might want to add a salad to it. I can tell you all of the stuff that you need, but I'm not the one that's going to prepare it for you. So I lead you to these other people, and I'm saying this to the audience to let you know that's the purpose of this show. The purpose of this show is to open your mind with whatever you do, entrepreneurs, community service, any business. I don't care what business you go in. If they give you a policy and a procedure and it doesn't read right, you got a problem. If your communication is wrong, you got a problem. So this show, our podcast, has to be a tool for you. Please don't take it as just entertainment. It's a tool for you to contact these people when they're not on the podcast, when they're doing what they do, when they're having these master classes, when they're having these different things. We want you to connect with them. We want to make a community where you can't say, I don't know where to go.
I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do. You do. Now we've had some phenomenal people on here that can add little tidbits to what you do. Take a little, like I said, make a menu and take a little bit of salad from Charlene. Take a little bit of the main course from Jessica. Take a little bit of the side dish or the dessert from someone else. Add up these people and build what you need to build. Because if you don't, you're wasting with the jewels that they're giving you.
And I ain't gonna let nobody waste mine.
That's right.
It's just unknown, uncanny to me that we've got so many developed African-American authors and so many that are connected in so many different ways to what they know, and the experience that you got from Maxine, the experience that someone else got, you know, from Carl Weber, the experience that Eric Gray brings to the table. And we've had some phenomenal people that have been just on this show in the little time that we've had this show. Please, audience, do not waste it. Do not waste it. We're giving it to you so that you can utilize it and become who you want to become. So with that, I just want to repeat some of the things, your email address, you know, for people to be able to get in touch with you. I want to repeat that. I want people to know that they can communicate with you. They can get in touch with you. You have a Instagram page that they can get in touch with you there. You have a Facebook page where they can get in touch with you there. And there is a phone number. There is. If you just want to call her and say, hey, I don't know how to do none of that stuff. I still want to be in touch with you. She has a phone number. And it has been such a pleasure that we probably are going to have to bring her back.
I'm thinking because look,
we haven't been able to really drill into the who's who with her. We're going to have to bring her back because your jewels were so important.
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
important.
Yeah. And
I know we didn't even get to talk about the poetry.
Exactly. And that's why I said we're going to have to reschedule you in maybe 1 week in December. We'll bring you back on so that
I'm down.
we could do a little bit of holiday poetry.
Yes.
And have a little bit of thing going on in
Let's
December.
go.
Because the thing about it is we want them to see the overall of everything that you do, because you're so multi-talented, and we really appreciate you. We really
thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
Yeah.
See, the time is gone. We went overtime. I'm thinking we 20 minutes in.
Okay, that's the mark of a good guest, is when we go way over time. Wait.
Listen, if I didn't cut you off before the hour was up, you did well, baby.
Oh, thank you. Wait, I didn't get the what is it? The hook?
Yeah,
I didn't get the hook.
Yeah.
You know how to, who was that was on the Apollo? Sandman used to come out there.
Yes. We were like, oh no, Sandman's coming.
Yes. But we appreciate you. We really do. We really want you to have the best. Of course, it'll be after the Thanksgiving holiday, so enjoy your holiday.
Thank
you. And audience, enjoy your holiday. We will be here next week, though, but we won't be here after that until the following week. And there goes my earring. Okay, so we're doing.
It's time to go when the earrings.
When the earrings fall off, it's time.
As long as we're not taking earrings off to fight.
Yeah. But anyway, we want to thank you, Charlene. Please stand by, guests and audience. Thank you for hanging in there. Police, as always, love you. Have a good evening, everyone, and enjoy your holiday. If you don't have anything to do next Monday, make sure you join in. You never know what's going to go on. Have a good evening. Have a good evening.
Good night.